Hi, hello, my name is Bethany. Welcome to my channel where I talk about my knits and any other bits that I feel like. First of all, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who watched my very first baby podcaster episode. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to everybody who watched, who shared it, who left a very encouraging comment. I'm so grateful. It was very exciting and very nerve-wracking at the same time. So I'm just grateful that everybody was so kind on my first go around. So today, I first of all want to apologize if my voice sounds a little bit off. I have been sick for the past week, and today is the first day that I felt really relatively normal. I know that you can probably hear it in my voice, but hopefully my voice will last, and I will get through recording this with no problem. But if the audio is a little bit off or if I sound strange, that's why. So today I want to talk about what I love, specifically in terms of knitting patterns. We all have those patterns that we just love to knit, and this is something that I had sort of jotted down in my idea notebook for the podcast really quite early on, and I thought, it's almost Valentine's Day, and we always, appreciate those we love around Valentine's Day, but also I want to celebrate the other things that bring us joy and the other things that we love. So in this case, I'm just going to feature some knitting patterns that I love so much that I have knit them multiple times. So this list is going to be predominantly garments and accessories that I have knit multiple times. I have gone through and I have sort of ranked them. So number 10 will be the one that I've knit the least amount of times, all the way up to number 1, which is the one that I have knit the most amount of times, give or take, as of recording this video. So the first one that I actually want to talk about is an honorable mention because it's not a garment or an accessory. It is the frog pattern by Claire Garland. I love this pattern. It's so cute! Like, it almost makes you rage with how cute it is. And I have only knit one of these for myself. Here's the... I'll put it either side. I'll pop a picture up of Jeffrey, who is my OG frog, and I have knit subsequent frogs since then, but I've given them all away because I think they make wonderful gifts. I won't lie, it's a fiddly pattern when you first start, but once you get through it, it's like so cute to knit too as the little frog gets put together. I love it so much. So yeah, that's my honorable mention to start with. Okay, so before we get started, this might be slightly longer because I'm going through a list. So make sure you have your beverages with you or your snacks because I want you to stay hydrated and not, get hungry while we're here. Okay, so number 10 on my list is the Trescow jumper. I really hope I'm saying that right. If not, please correct me in the comments. Use some phonetic spelling and maybe I can learn some new pronunciation. I have knit this particular pattern 3 times. The first one that I knit is actually the one that I'm wearing. So this is it's a DK weight pattern, but for this I held sock weight and lace weight together, and I just had a couple of skeins of very lavendery yarn that I really wanted to use up, plus a very pink / magenta lace weight that I didn't know what to do with. And I had recently discovered holding yarns together was right? You can change the look of the fabric, you can change the gauge of the fabric just by holding things together or not. So that was really fun. So basically just partway through the body is when the first skein was done, and so I did sort of some fading or some helical knitting, I forget which, to blend the two together, and I think it's pretty successful. Yeah, I knit this one up. I also knit a t-shirt version, and because I previously knit this gorgeous sort of light green, I think the colorway was called Granny Smith, it's so cute, into another pattern, and I never wore that garment. I even finished the garment and I never wore it. I can't remember the name of it right now, but so I frogged that, I harvested the yarn back, and I knit it into a little t-shirt version of this. And then most recently, I knit myself sort of like the equivalent of a knit sweatshirt using this pattern. I was moved because everybody was previewing their advents, or advents had started to arrive. This was sort of like early November 2024. And I still had leftovers from previous advents that I had gotten in 2022 and 2023. But I had decided in 2024 I wasn't going to buy myself one. So I was sort of feeling the FOMO at that point when everybody's like, oh, advents, right? They're arriving or they're shipping or whatever. Or here's the preview. If you don't want to be spoiled, don't slide over to the next picture. And I did anyway because I was like, oh, these advents are wonderful. And I'm like, wait, I've got advent leftovers. Let's do something with that. So I used part of an advent leftover from my 2023 Tangled Poets holiday box, and I held it together with just a strand of crochet cotton, white crochet cotton, and I'll pop a picture up of the sort of sweatshirty one, and I love this. I made it intentionally oversized so that it could literally go over everything. It's maybe a tad too big. I constantly have to roll up the sleeves, but you know what? I don't hate it. I wanted a sweatshirt and I got a sweatshirt. Number 9 is the Shorty Weekend Socks by Summer Lee. Summer Lee, take a drink. It begins. This, I loved what she did originally with this pattern, basically using different colors of yarn to knit the different parts of a sock, which I thought was actually, I don't know if it was in her intention, but I actually thought it was a really cool way to break down the anatomy of a hand knit sock. So I love this, and I do love a good ankle sock. Of course, when I first started knitting socks, I knit them like full length, up the calf, what have you. But I love a good shorty ankle sock. So I have knit this multiple times. I have knit this one 5 times on record. I think I've knit it more than that, and I just maybe haven't documented those particular knits. I'll put some pictures up of some of the examples, not all of them. I didn't want this episode to go too long, so I'm not gonna go through every single iteration of each pattern that I have knit, but I have knit that 5 times and I love it. If you need a good ankle sock pattern, I would highly recommend it. Number 8 is the Party Top by Abby Knits, or Abbe Knits, I'm not sure. I love this one. This is like for me, like the perfect kind of crop-ish top, and I have knit this one also 5 times. My original one I knit out of a beautiful purple Malabrigo Arroyo yarn in this gorgeous purple, and I still have it and I still wear it, and I knit it for my birthday, whatever year I finished it. I honestly don't remember, but it's been quite a few years, and I have made variations on this one ever since. I did one, the first one was exactly the pattern. My second one was the same thing, except that I took the eyelets out of the sleeve, and I did it in a gorgeous teal. Again, those two get rotation a lot because I just throw those over top of things. It's great. I did a t-shirt version and knit the body longer so it was less of a crop. And then there have been some other versions, like basically when I want a go-to raglan that fits with 0 to negative ease, and I don't want to do the Trescow, which we talked about a little while ago. Basically the Party Top is my go-to. Okay, number 7 is a hat. It is the sock head slouch hat, and for a long time this was my go-to fingering weight hat pattern, and I still love it. It allows you to knit a really long brim so that you can fold it up and have it be double thickness around your ears, and then you can knit the like body of the hat and the crown as long as you want to. So it is meant to be a slouchy hat. I'm not a huge fan of super slouchy hats, but so I generally knit them shorter, but I do love it. If you want, it can do a really good job of using up nearly an entire skein of sock yarn, And it's good for showcasing sock yarn as well. So if you got a skein that you're like, I don't know what to do with this, it's a really good pattern, at least to get a feel for how that yarn knits up. So I highly recommend that one as well. Okay, she's back. Number 6 is the I'm So Basic sock by Summer Lee. I think the number for this one is like a little bit off, just because when I knit a vanilla sock, I don't always put it in Ravelry, attaching the pattern that I used. Right? Because sometimes I just cast on a vanilla sock and do kind of whatever I want, even though the stitch count and the heel and the toe are basically from I'm So Basic. So according to Ravelry, I've knit this 6 times. I think it's more, but that's neither here nor there. So I waxed lyrical about this pattern in my first episode, but it's a great beginner sock pattern if you want to just knit a vanilla sock that has no texture on it, and really clear instructions for your heel and your heel turn, and as well as your toe, which is why I use them in my own vanilla sock recipe. So highly recommend. Probably while I'm talking, there have been multiple versions of this go around. I've also used this pattern to knit shorty socks before she came out with the weekend oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess it up now. The shorty weekend sock. I just used the stitch count from that, and then just did 3 rows of leg before turning the heel to get ankle socks out of that. But yeah, love the I'm So Basic pattern. Okay, here we are again. Number 5, we're halfway there. The Daily Socks by Summer Lee is my number 5 pattern. I love this pattern. There's something about the texture of this pattern that it got me right from the beginning, right from the pattern photos with, I don't know if it's Summer herself or somebody in her household, but they're just curled up, and they've got these cute little socks on, sitting in a chair with these socks on, and the light is just right and hitting the texture just right. And it's like, who knew you could wax lyrical about a pattern. But I love this. It's a little more interesting than the I'm So Basic, so if you want something that has texture, it's pretty memorizable. And I will fully admit to having messed up the pattern on these socks before, just because I'm not paying attention. And truthfully, you almost don't even notice as long as you correct yourself in the next couple of rows. But I love these, and I love this particular pattern for making shorties, ankle socks. There's just something about having a shorty textured sock that I really like, so I really like turning this particular pattern into ankle socks. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I have knit this one 7 times according to my project thing. So yeah, 7 times. I do think it's more because I do knit a lot of ankle socks, but we'll take it for 7. Okay, this next one, number 4, is an oldie goldie. For me, anyway. This is Mira's Cowl, and I have knit this 9 times. When I first started my library job, I started part-time, and at that time, I also worked at a local yarn shop, also part-time, just to sort of supplement and basically get experience, doing something else other than library work. And also, I was just into knitting, I was a few years into knitting, so it also gave me a huge amount of experience with different patterns because apart from working the retail of the store, I also knit samples for the store, and Mira's Cowl was one of them. We wanted to show off a particular yarn, and I'll show it here. I think it's listed in my project notes, but it was this yarn here that we wanted to, this gray yarn that we wanted to feature in the store, and then I friggin' love this thing because all it was huge blocks of knit stitches and then purl stitches, knit stitches and purl stitches, and you did that all the way around until you were done a skein of sock yarn or 100 grams or however much you wanted to use. And so I loved this. I also modified it to be shorter. So there's one that I will pop up here, and it's sort of a purple, metallic purple. It's gorgeous. And that one I just figured out how to either halve the stitches or quarter them so that it was just a nice close fitting neck warmer, and I freaking love that cowl because it did the same for me as like the body of a garment does for other people, because at that point I wasn't knitting garments. It took me a long time to knit garments, which is funny to think of now. Love Mira, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I have knit this 9 times in various and sundry. It's a great long cowl that you can like loop up a bunch of times, so that's fantastic. It is still available on Ravelry, so honestly, even though I haven't knit this in literal years, I would recommend it. Okay, number 3, we're in the home stretch. I want to talk about the Spell Shawl. I love this. The texture in this is wonderful. The fact that you get to, it's written to use 3 skeins of sock yarn, and you hold it double. So you start by holding color 1 double with itself, and then you have a section where you hold color 1 and 2 together, and then you go on and you hold color 2 double with itself, and then 2 and 3 together, and then 3 together to the end of the shawl, so that it ends up being a DK weight, essentially, shawl. But I love the texture in this, and I love how you can blend variegated yarns together. So I've had a lot of fun. I have also just loved experimenting with holding different yarns together, or essentially striping them through the shawl. So I have knit, how many have I knit? Let me check my notes. I have knit 10 of these, which is a lot for a shawl. Like, and considering how much yarn you can use in this, it's an entirely adjustable pattern, so you don't have to knit it to the specs listed in the pattern. So I've knit smaller versions because, say, I've wanted to use up mini skeins or anything like that. I have just knit until I've run out of the yarn that I want to use, so that it ends up being more shawlette or scarf style. And then I have knit versions that are just big, like proper shawls that you can like wrap around yourself, and like tie at the front. So I love this, and I think what gets me every time is the fact that you can experiment with the colors that you use and the yarns that you hold together just to see how it turns out. Like the scrappy ones in the Ravelry projects, just they get me every time. Every time somebody uses scraps or just various and sundry bits to knit this shawl, it gets me every time, and I'm like, oh, I gotta cast on another one, like, you know. So I love this pattern. Okay, number 2, we are going to talk about the basic ribbed sock. This one is by Kate Atherley, so not Summerly. This is the sock pattern that I learned to knit socks on, which is funny, because, you know, you would have thought I would have started with a plain, just knit in the round, no texture, kind of thing. But I kind of wanted a sock pattern that was sort of guaranteed to fit me, and luckily ribbing, because it has so much elasticity in it, kind of guarantees that as long as you cast on the right amount of stitches initially, it's probably going to fit your foot. Again, if you, you know, kind of mess up in terms of the length of your foot, then you have a problem, but like it will fit around your calf, kind of no matter how big your calf is. Again, assuming you cast on the correct number of stitches for your size initially. So I have knit this particular pattern 12 times. Once I got comfortable with the 2x2, I believe it's 2x2 rib. It's been ages since I've knit it. Once I got comfortable with that, I kind of moved on, and just used, before Summerly came on the scene, I used this as my basis for my vanilla sock for a long time. So I knit, obviously, ribbed socks. I knit plain ones with just the only ribbing being at the cuff. I have turned them into ankle socks. So like I knit this a lot, and it really got me comfortable with the anatomy of a sock and how to how to knit a sock, truly. Really clear instructions in this one. Kate Atherley is kind of very well known for teaching knitting, essentially, but teaching how to knit socks. Again, kind of before Summer Lee came on the scene. She's kind of like the OG sock lady, a little bit, in my opinion anyway. I could be wrong about that. But I love this pattern. Knit it 12 times over my knitting career so far. Okay, and we've made it, friends. Number 1 is the standing rock hat. And the reason this one is number 1 because as soon as I tried this pattern for the first time, this hat pattern quickly became, it was so memorizable for me that it quickly became the hat pattern that I use when I knit for charity and for gifts. So, and I do a lot of that, particularly the charity knitting. I figure I'm knitting anyway. I might as well, use my hobby to help others. I give many hats and socks to various food banks in my area. So that is why there are so many of these. And I sort of think that this number that I'm going to give you is actually kind of low because I don't always document the charity knits. I try to, especially if I've knitted out a stash, but I very often buy less expensive yarn, often acrylic yarn, to knit the charity hats, because charity hats need to be able to stand up to either no washing or very rough washing, because often people who receive these hats don't have regular access to washing facilities. So like they can't be hand washing and lay flat to drying their hat, right? So often I'm just purchasing acrylic from a big box store when it's on sale, or even from the thrift store, right? When folks, destash their own stuff, it often ends up at the thrift store. So I'm in there grabbing what I can. So all that being said, according to my Ravelry, I have knit this 16 times. Again, I think that number is low just because I don't document all of the charity knitting that I do. So yeah, love this. It is just so memorizable because it's 2x2, and all you have to do to change the size of the hat in terms of circumference is to change your needle size. So you can knit it worsted or DK according to this pattern. And then you just knit it as long as you want. There is a number in the pattern that is the average that you reach for. I sometimes reach that. I sometimes don't. I sometimes cut it off a little bit short, and then it fits more closely, which is fine too. Yeah, there's just something about the texture of this particular hat pattern that I just absolutely love. Just 2x2 ribbing all the way around. And it's great. Like I said, very memorizable for me, and I highly, highly recommend it. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, but the designer asked for donations to be made to Standing Rock at the time that was happening. So I did that. I did that a number of times within the first year that I made the hat, because I was making it a lot. And then I do at random different times continue to make donations where I can, or to other Indigenous organizations, sort of just to keep within the wishes of the designer, because I would gladly pay for this pattern if it was a paid pattern, but it happens to be free. So that's how I sort of do that. So if you do try out this pattern, please do, for one thing, but also think about making a donation to either a local Indigenous charity in your area, or one of the national ones, just to keep just to be in keeping with the wishes of the designer. I want to take a very small amount of time to talk about other things that I have been loving lately. So around this time of year, I get a huge hankering to watch Jane Austen adaptations. I don't know if it's the whole thing where it's been a long winter and I just find those adaptations really comforting to watch, but I love watching them. So the ones that I love to watch in particular are the 2005 film adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. I heard someone describe it. I know a lot of people are like, ugh, but I heard someone describe it once, where the 2005 version is good for vibes, and other adaptations are good if you are concerned about how well it has been adapted to screen. And I kind of really agree with that, because I am not actively watching this film when I put it on. It is very much a background second screen watch for me. I do think it's beautiful, but I don't have to watch it I don't have to watch it intently, right? Because I've seen it a number of times. The other adaptations that I really like are the version of Persuasion that stars Sally Hawkins. I think it's great. Some cinematography choices were made in that, but I think Sally Hawkins is wonderful. So that's why I rewatched that version. I also really like, there is a Sense and Sensibility mini series. I think it's only 3 episodes from what I recall. And I just really like it. The fact that they took this, that they were able to take this particular novel and chop it into 3 parts. So you spend a lot of time with the characters. And I really like that version, mostly because it's like watching long episodes of something. Some other things that I have been loving lately is my husband and I were in Toronto last week, which is part of why I got sick. But while we were there, we visited Hopeless Romantic, and it is a little tiny, and hopefully I'll put some pictures up. It is the tiniest bookstore I've maybe ever seen, but jam-packed full of nothing but romance books, which is wonderful. That is definitely more in my wheelhouse than my husband's. My husband will read anything, including romance. But definitely when we met, it was like, he's reading horror, sci-fi, Star Wars, anything Star Wars. And I'm over here reading, your classic romances and things like that. But we will go to any bookstore. And we hadn't yet managed to get to Hopeless Romantic previous trips to Toronto. So we made a point of it this time, and it was well worth it. Definitely you should check it out if you're in Toronto, or if you make it to Toronto on a visit. Highly recommend. It's really cute. They have a display wall where they put the books out by chili rating, so your spice rating, so all the way from 1 to 5, which I thought was a really cool way of doing it. I also think that maybe the actual organization of the store is by chili level, perhaps. Not exactly sure, because they did have some very specific genre within the genre shelves. For instance, there was an LGBTQ plus section, and those were sectioned out separate from everything else instead of being interfiled. And then one whole wall was just nothing but romantasy, right? But it was really cool, and we really enjoyed it, and fully plan to go back. We also both picked up blind date books. They had a selection of books wrapped up near the front of the store, and we each picked one, and I haven't opened mine yet, so I was maybe gonna do that like live on recording, but I didn't grab the book. So maybe I will pop in some B-roll of me opening it. So past me doesn't know what this book is, but future me certainly does. So I love the concept of blind date books. My library also does blind date books, where we wrap up books that you can borrow and you don't know what you get until you check it out. We still give it to you wrapped. We don't unwrap it at the desk for you, but you take it home wrapped up, and then it's yours to enjoy by unwrapping and finding out what you get. I'm also loving, and this is like a forever ride or die, is the Reading Glasses podcast. My husband and I have a tendency to keep building up episodes, and then when we go on a road trip, we have a tendency to listen to that particular podcast when we road trip, and we love it. It grows our to be read lists like insanely, but it also sparks really interesting conversation between us, because depending on the topic of the Reading Glasses podcast that particular time that we're listening, it has sparked some really interesting conversations between us about our reading life, what we like to read, problematic authors, problematic subject matter, you know, and other sort of reading problems that folks write in about. But Bria and Mallory are like 10 out of 10 fantastic. And I highly recommend, if you are a reader, if you're not already listening to Reading Glasses, you really should. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is actually the book that I recently read. I finished it off this week because I was at home sick, and I read The Treasure Hunters Club by Tom Ryan. This was fantastic, it has to do with buried treasure. It takes place in Nova Scotia. It switches points of view between the three main characters, and it all centers around the mystery of this lost treasure that this town, Maple Bay, is kind of famous for. Like it's infamous for, right? A pirate ship sank off the coast near this town, and the rumor is that, you know, before the pirate captain was captured or what have you, or maybe he went down with the ship. I now don't remember. Anyway, his massive treasure was apparently brought to shore and hidden, and now no one has found it, so people are like, I'm gonna find the treasure. So we center on three main characters who get involved with the hunt for the treasure, and it's like basically it's legend for various and sundry reasons. But it was fantastic to unravel the mystery with these different characters from different perspectives. So I highly recommend it. It was a fun read. The last 100 pages, I was gunning through them because I wanted to know what was going to happen, particularly with these characters, because as time goes on, it becomes a little bit less about finding the treasure and more about what happens to these characters as they try to unravel the mystery, because of course it gets a little bit dangerous, right? And it also has to do with family history for each of these characters, in a way, and I just thought it was really cool. If you like a small town mystery, if you like a treasure hunt, definitely check this book out. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for sticking with me through my voice. As you can tell, it's starting to go, so that now is a really good time to wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. And until next time, keep those stitches moving.